Everyone thinks Commodus was a madman, pure and simple. They're wrong. The truth is far more intricate, woven with the ambition of senators, the desperation of a praetorian prefect, and the silent, deadly hand of a woman scorned. His death wasn't merely the end of a tyrant, it was the violent rupture that exposed the fragility of Rome itself. For 2 decades, Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, had been Rome's steady hand. His reign, a golden age of stability, ended with his passing in 180 AD, leaving the empire to his only son, Commodus, a son whose nature diverged wildly from his father's stoic wisdom. Initially, Commodus sought to emulate his father, even taking the name Marcus Aurelius Commodus Antoninus. Yet, the burdens of empire soon became clear. He quickly abandoned the Marcomannic Wars, signing a peace treaty that many viewed as weak, a betrayal of Roman strength. His true passion lay not in governance or military command, but in the arena. Commodus saw himself as a living Hercules, a demigod clad in lion skin, battling gladiators and wild beasts. This obsession, however, alienated the Senate, who saw their emperor debasing his office. The first significant plot against Commodus came early, in 182 AD, orchestrated by his own sister, Lucilla. She felt sidelined, her influence waning under her brother's rule. The plan was simple: an assassin would strike while Commodus entered the amphitheater. The assassin, Quintianus, a nephew of Lucilla's husband, confronted Commodus with a dagger, famously declaring, "This is what the Senate sends you." But his hesitation, his theatrical pronouncement, gave the emperor's bodyguards enough time to intervene. The plot failed. The repercussions were brutal. Lucilla was exiled to Capri, later executed. This attempt solidified Commodus's paranoia. He began to see enemies everywhere, his trusted advisors and senators becoming targets of suspicion, leading to a reign of terror and purges. Power in Rome consolidated around a few key figures: his praetorian prefect, Tigidius Perennis, and later Cleander, an ambitious freedman. These men, for a time, wielded immense power, often at the emperor's capricious whim, enriching themselves through corruption and murder. Cleander's tenure, however, ended abruptly. A severe grain shortage in 190 AD led to riots in Rome, with the populace blaming him directly. Commodus, pressured by the crowd and his own advisors, had Cleander executed, his head impaled on a spear and paraded through the city. The purges continued, fueled by Commodus's erratic behavior. He began referring to himself as Hercules, son of Jupiter, renaming Rome Colonia Commodiana. His megalomania was escalating, threatening the very foundations of Roman tradition and governance. By 192 AD, a new triumvirate of power had emerged around the emperor: his chamberlain, Eclectus, the new praetorian prefect, Quintus Aemilius Letus, and most crucially, his concubine, Marcia. They were the ones closest to the unpredictable emperor. The catalyst for their conspiracy wasn't abstract political theory, but a specific, terrifying threat. On the evening of December 30th, 192 AD, Commodus, after a particularly wild night, presented a death list to Marcia, containing the names of the very people around him. Marcia saw her own name on that list, along with Eclectus and Letus. This wasn't a whim, it was a death sentence. The trio knew their lives were forfeit if they didn't act immediately. The choice was stark: kill or be killed. Their plan was swift and brutal. They decided on poison. Marcia, known for her devotion to Commodus, administered the poison, likely in a cup of wine, after his evening bath. The poison, however, worked slowly, not with the immediate effect they desired. Commodus began to vomit violently, but the poison didn't kill him. His athletic constitution was proving unexpectedly resilient. Panic must have gripped the conspirators. Their window of opportunity was closing, and a failed attempt meant certain, agonizing death. They needed a surer method, one that couldn't be traced back to poison. They called upon Narcissus, a powerful wrestler and Commodus's personal training partner. He was promised a substantial reward, his loyalty bought with gold and the promise of survival. In the early hours of December 31st, 192 AD, Narcissus entered Commodus's chambers. The emperor, still weakened by the poison, was vulnerable. Narcissus strangled him to death in his bath, ending the reign of the gladiator emperor and setting Rome on a perilous path. The death of Commodus plunged Rome into chaos, triggering the year of the five emperors and ultimately a century of instability known as the crisis of the 3rd century. His assassination didn't just end a life, it irrevocably altered the trajectory of an empire. The conspiracy against Commodus wasn't a grand ideological stand, it was a desperate act of self-preservation by those closest to power. A stark reminder that even emperors, cloaked in divinity, are mortal and can be brought down by the very hands they trust. To understand the next figure to seize power in this tumultuous period, watch our deep dive into Pertinax, the emperor who lasted just 86 days.